Good morning, everybody. This is the first of a couple of weeks where everyone's taken some holiday leave, and the services are run by a variety of people in the Iron Church today. John and I are running it. Bear with us. We are not wrong. We don't profess to be wrong. We're just going to try and do our best. So that's how it is, and we just need everyone to feel that we're all involved in it. So welcome, please stand, and welcome to Coburg Church. I think most of us are familiar with routines, but anything, please ask. Any problems during the week or anything, please ask John or myself. And we're going to start with a hymn, Praise My Soul, which is a real sort of gut buster, because it really has got a lot of power, it's got a lot of energy in it. And Keith is going to start us off. Thank you.
Lighting a candle can be a helpful way to pray for someone. And we remember that our Lord was sent to us to be a light to the world. So I now invite you to light a candle and pray your own special prayer. And that's hymn number 562. I'm not ashamed to own my Lord. It's a very traditional Methodist hymn written by Isaac Watts back in about 1680, I think. But it's one of his best and most well known hymns, number 562. I am not ashamed to know my Lord and can remain seated.
A short devotional reading to just put us into the right frame of mind, to take business out of our mind, to take some time. Whatever moments you rush by, we pause in this moment. Let there be a peacefulness in our spines. Let there be a strength in our spines. Let there be healing and solace in our silence. Let there be something beautiful in our silence.
Our first reading this morning is taken from Psalm 139, reading verses 1 to 13. Even darkness covers me. Lord, you examine me and know all about me. You know when I sit down and when I get up. You know my thoughts before I think them. You know where I go and where I lie down. You know everything I do. Lord, even before I say a word, you already know it. You are all around me, in front and in back, and have put your hand on me. Your knowledge is amazing to me. It is more than I can understand. Where can I go to get away from your spirit? Where can I run from you? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I lie down in the grave, you are there. If I rise with the sun in the east and settle in the west, beyond the sea, even there you would guide me. With your right hand you would hold me. I could say, the darkness will hide me. Let the light around me turn to night. but even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as light as the day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made my whole being, you formed me in my mother's body. Today's psalm is an exchange between David and God, intensely personal, and expresses many of our own feelings. So, announcement and understanding that there is nowhere beyond the reach of God's presence. Combined with our own revelation that we can't flee from such knowing, and us being really known by God. God's grace upon us is constant. It's not primarily a gaze of judgment or condemnation, but one of love. God is in all things, in all people, in all places. I can travel to the other side of the earth. I can be in the depths of grief. I can switch off all the lights and can cover myself in the heaviest blanket, but God will still be there with me. I have been intimately created by God. I am unique, and God knows me more intimately than I can ever imagine. No one else shares my fingerprints or my unique life story. All the abilities and disabilities I have are part of who I am. All my interests, my passion, my personality make me me. God is so far beyond our comprehension. Even if I had knowledge of the entire universe, I still would not fully know God. Yet day after day, I have given intimate knowledge of God, just as God has intimate knowledge of me. Through the creation word, I come to know God. Through my experiences, my friendships, through prayer and through scripture, I come to know God more and more personally. God is never truly absent. I consider the times I struggle with faith and ask God for the grace to know God's ultimate presence. Your Spirit calls me to be the one intimately created, the one uniquely blessed, the one true self I am. I cannot escape this call. I cannot escape you. Your gaze and loving, ever yearning is upon me. So be close, call me, and help me to love for me, who intimately creates you. Our next hymn is hymn 256, The Servant King. We continue our readings with the second part of Psalm 139, reading verses 12 to 19. I praise you, Lord, because you made me in an amazing, wonderful way. What you have done is wonderful. I know this very well. You saw my bones being formed as I took shape in my mother's womb. When I was put together there, you saw my body as it was formed. All the days planned for me were written in your book before I was one day old. God, your thoughts are precious to me. They are so many. If I could count them, they would be more than all the grains of sand. When I wake up, I am still with you. God, I wish you would kill the wicked. Get away from me, murderers.
The next reading is from John, and this is the reading that will base our reflection thoughts on today. And I'm reading from the Message, and it's John 1, verses 35 to 51. And it's titled, Come, See for Yourself. The next day, John was back at his post with 2 disciples who were watching. He looked up, saw Jesus walking nearby and said, Here he is, God's Passover Lamb. The 2 disciples heard him and went after Jesus. Jesus looked over his shoulder and said to them, What are you after? He said, Rabbi, which means teacher. Where are you staying? He replied, Come along and see for yourself. They came, saw where he was living, and ended up staying with him for the day. It was late afternoon when this happened. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the 2 who heard John's witness and followed Jesus. The first thing he did after finding where Jesus lived was to find his own brother Simon, telling him, We found the Messiah, that is Christ. He immediately led him to Jesus. Jesus took one look up and said, You're John's son Simon. From now on, your name is Caiaphas, or Peter, which means rock. I think I pronounced that right, I'm not sure, someone can correct me. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. When he got there, he ran across Philip and said, Come, follow me. Philip's hometown was Bethsaida, the same as Andrew and Peter. Philip went and found Nathanael and told him, We found the one Moses wrote of in the law, the one preached by the prophets. It's Jesus, Joseph's son, the one from Nazareth. Nazareth? You've got to be kidding. And Philip said, Come, see for yourself. When Jesus saw him coming, he said, There's a real Israelite, not a false bone in his body. And he said, where did you get that idea? You don't know me. Jesus answered, one day, long before Philip called you here, I saw you under the fig tree. Nathanael exclaimed, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. Jesus said, you become a believer simply because I say, I saw you one day sitting under the fig tree. You haven't seen anything yet. Before this is over, you are going to see heaven open and God's angels descending to the Son of Man and ascending again. We're going to sing another hymn. We're having lots of hymns today, as you can gather. I wonder why. It's probably because we're going to be a bit short later on in reflection, to be honest. And it's called Lord, Your Almighty Word. It's hymn number 447 in the textbook. Because we're not doing the PowerPoint because that's just too much to get our act together. So, thank you. Thanks. So while I master the mechanics of these microphones, which now I realise why many people wear jackets because they've got the lapels on, hook onto, and I don't. So I apologise for not wearing my mask, but I'm using it for an interpretive higher calling I think today. So as you know, one is away on a well-deserved holiday and asked us to share, and yes, we will have other people sharing in. And I am not trained, honestly, to do this type of reflection, so this is purely my thoughts on the reading today, John, and I will not take full credit for it. I'm going to be quite open and say I have looked at many books at once, gone in the circles, got the wrong ideas, gone around in circles again, touched base with wrong ones, and I have used a website called The Working Preacher, and I've used that some ideas from the Love to the World, Answers from the Heart, which is a big major on Mrs. Millard. And anyway, so thank you very much, Ron Wazinski, for giving me everything. In fact, I don't know, the back to front, probably was higher than just my notes. Okay. So I was just going to start by, it was actually a conversation I was thinking, it actually connects into, I was having a walk with some friends, and I remember someone had seen the movie, and it was a really good movie, and they told us about it. I think it was The Dry. There's this new Australian movie called The Dry. And I'm thinking, yes. So why do we tell other people about movies? Because we want them to go and see it for ourselves. We want them to feel that same experience that we've got ourselves. And we want them to feel what we feel. So we want to share something. And this is exactly what happens in the Bible reading today in John 1. It's all about that idea about sharing experience. And so a quick synopsis is, and it sums it up, so it's this idea of one disciple after another encounters Jesus and has this sort of transformative experience that leads them to tell another, so that they too will come and see this man from Galilee and be changed by experience. So what happens is, in John, the way that the group of, or the community of disciples grows, it's more like not a movie where they have a super marketing push, and it's put on the TV, it's pushed through all your phones. Every time you open your phone, you've got Google, it pushes a movie. It's more like that domino effect. And I think the word for it was, I had a Google, I think the word for it is called a sleeper hit, which means that it's a box office hit, but it results from the word of mouth rather than big marketing. So, usually it comes as a surprise. They don't expect it to be a hit. It just becomes like not a big mark, but like a cult following as an underworld sort of growth. So in here, what happens here is it's about John the Baptist. He's standing with two of his own disciples. Because John the Baptist has his own disciples at this point. He's quite considered a leader. And he sees Jesus walk by, and he points out Jesus, and he says, "Oh, look, there's the Lamb of God." And we know before about this that he's doing this all the time. But John's disciples, because he actually has disciples himself, they were absent the day before, so they don't know what this means. So they hear John, and they follow Jesus to find out for themselves who this Jesus person is. And there's quite a few ideas that happen. There's reflections on what it means about John, what it means about the language that's used in this reading, this Gospel of John, and what it means about some of the key characters in this Bible reading as well. And in this fourth Gospel, John, it's written with it's got like a penchant of using very simple language, but it's got two meanings. It's got your straightforward meaning, your literal meaning, and then it's got not a hidden meaning, but it's got another deeper underlying. So it's not hidden, but it's a more subtle meaning. And the word of to go and follow Jesus actually means more than the literally following and walking, following to go and see Jesus. It actually means the word to follow Jesus is actually more the technical term to make a decision to be a disciple of. And it anticipates that what they're going to do is they're going to leave John and they're going to follow Jesus. That means they're going to cease being John's disciples and become disciples of Jesus. Now this doesn't actually lessen John anything as an important person, in that it means that he will have his followers. But what it actually marks is that John is an amazing character in himself, and it's a success as a witness. It's actually a witness rather than he's not saying, "Hey, you've chosen to stop following me and follow Jesus, therefore I failed." It actually means something a bit more than that. So what does that mean to us? I was thinking, so how come, what does that mean to me? What are they trying to say? I read in another book and it said, they said it, when we lay aside our pride in our achievements and our abilities, just as John the Baptist did, we can reflect God's light and really point the way to recovery. So I thought, yeah, so what does that mean to me as a person? So I was thinking about my job. I'm a primary school teacher. I run a team of 8 teachers. So how do I relate to that? I thought, so when something's successful, how do I convey my response? When the principal says, oh, Rachel, that was a fantastic thing you're doing, that's brilliant. Do I take the credit if I thought it up? Or do I take the credit as a team and pass on that? Because I know that for me as a person, being a teacher is one thing, but being part of something more important, which is the education of children, it's better to, that is the direction. It's not about following the team leader and following, oh, Rachel's a great team leader, blah, blah, blah. It's about doing it for the school, doing it for the children. So taking back, not taking the credit as I'm Rachel, it's the team that builds the children instead. So stressing other people or what is the focus, it's not about me taking that credit, it's about the kids having their education. And I saw another phrase at the bottom of the Bible that Lauren uses. And it just basically says, we are here beggars, telling other beggars where to find food. So we're just a way and a message in the way through to find a better choice in life. We often focus our lives on many things, the pursuits that promise our fulfillment. We study the deeper things of the Spirit and the things of ultimate concern for all human beings. And if we become part of an evolving life, a faith that enhances us, a faith that's and a focus that is alive and builds us, it brings a resilience to us, but a resilience to our future and everything. So laying aside that idea is looking at the successes, is the humility of John as a disciple to step down, not step down, but step aside to realise that Jesus is the most one. Another one it is another point that I realised from this John reading is, he asked the 2 disciples this really simple question: what are you looking for? So at the first level, what are they looking for? Why are they looking after him? What are you looking for? What are you looking for, Messiah? But deep down, there is a bigger question, which is, what do you seek when you come to follow Jesus? So what are you looking for? I'm looking for a physical person. What are you deeply seeking inside? On the surface, you want to know where Jesus is staying, because it's getting late in the day. I need a place to stay. But then I did what God did, and I had a little bit of research on the word stay, and I'm not a Greek person, I'm not very good, and I looked at the word stay, and it means meno, I can't pronounce it properly. And in context to this Bible reading, the word meno is a term which relates to the Gospel of John, means a permanent remaining or abiding. So instead of the superficial, they want to know where his staying is late, it actually means they want to know where Jesus permanently stays. Where does he permanently rest? Where is he? That it's sort of reflecting that they've got this deep down innate desire to be discipled in Jesus' presence always. Not just now, not for a couple of days, but where are you? Where are you, Jesus? We really want to know and want to really be connected to you. At this point, the 2 disciples don't know this deep connection yet. Jesus knows it, but they haven't got that aha connection yet. But ultimately, what they want is the place where Jesus resides is with his disciples. And it tells you later in the Bible reading of John. In the meantime, John invites them to come and see, and I think those are the key words from this reading this morning. It's an invitation at one level means to just go and have a look, but at a deeper level is an invitation to approach Jesus with an openness to see him through the eyes of faith. Come and see. So what does that mean to us? You know, we walk through the doors of the church. Initially, maybe because it's a social connection. I've been going to church for 20, 30 odd years. I came back here probably because I felt I would reconnect. I knew there was something deep in this church, in a church, but I hadn't quite found it. And I initially came in because of the social connection to reconnect, and I knew that I needed to feel comfortable with people in church. But maybe something a little bit more than that. We realise that we can do something about the struggles that we're experiencing, and that we're not alone in this. So, you know, sometimes we come into church for a social connection, but we find something a little bit more. Another thing that we find with this is that if we spend time with Jesus, and these disciples spend time with Jesus, it transforms them. And you can see in the way that they change the titles and how they actually address Jesus. First they call him Rabbi. And it's definitely the title. Rabbi is a respectful title, to be sure. But then the disciple, I think it's called Andrew, speaks of Jesus. He refers to him as the Messiah. Now that's a more significant title. So Rabbi is a teacher, but the Messiah is just on a totally different level. So just spending time with him makes them realise that they've even changed the way that they even address him. Another thing is that they have to tell others about this. Others must come and see what they have seen. So Andrew tells Peter and brings him to Jesus. And then it's like that domino effect, just like it is in those sort of movies which aren't big marketing ones, but they happen to come by through word of mouth. So just as the experience of Jesus exchanges the first two disciples, they change from being followers to devotees, and that's that change. Peter's experience with Jesus actually leads to a total transformation of his identity. He goes from Simon to, and please correct me, is it Cephas or Cephas? Can someone correct me? How do you, or Cephas? Does anyone know the correct word? All right, I'm going with Cephas. You can tell me afterwards. I have no. And it's actually a name on the word for rock. And again, I looked because, you know, I've got one of these Latin fancy words and these. Kepha in Aramaic, Petra in Greek. Now, I think when I mean rock, I don't mean so hard, fast, solid that it can't be changed. I just mean it is something really solid and secure. Not rock that can't be changed, but just a really secure thing. And it's thought that it's Peter who identifies Jesus as the Messiah. And it makes a really big turning point, a crucial turning point in that relationship with Jesus and his disciples. So this is a really, really significant passage in the Bible. It's like that, you know, we have an aha moment when you realise a connection. And I'll give you an example. All right, so this was from last week, and I was learning with Josh, and I was trying to help sort something out for Ryan and John, and it was the diary, and we put forward this weekly planner diary. And I wanted to repeat a week after week, and I know I can do it more way, which has about 7 different commands. And then Josh beautifully says, in this very gentle way, if you just press that, and repeated motion, you can make your life about 10 seconds quicker for each 52 weeks that you're on. And my eyes lit up, and I had an aha moment that all these underlying things I've been looking at for years and wonder what the underlying letters of the first things of each of these words of the future had. I then got a big understanding of what I've been missing all this time on the computer, and that things have been making more sense, and they're making more sense when I've seen people in my team doing this particular pattern with their computer, and now I can do things in probably a tenth of the time. It was a bit scary to learn it, but then I really realised, well, if I keep using it, it's going to really be something really helpful to me. So that's a very superficial example of an aha moment. But it's that phrase that makes us connect to something, and you can have aha moments, and sometimes they're not in church. They can be when you're doing something in your own. That was a superficial example. You can have an aha moment sometimes when you're driving a car. You're just looking in a cafe, just walking, just doing one of your regular things. That helps us to make sense of our life. And that's making a deeper level connection to trying to look at your life and what you can do with your life. Just bouncing something that's not here. Sometimes what it is, and you realise as you come to church, and this is not on here, I've just had an aha moment just now, that one can talk about things, and you go home, and it's in the back of your mind, and it just turns over and over and over. And then maybe 2-3 weeks later, something happens, and you go, that's connecting to what Ron was doing, and you get that aha moment, and then you feel like a little bit more like if your page is a blank canvas, you've covered in a little bit more colouring your page, a little bit more richness to your life, a little bit more colour to your life. It's like a black and white canvas that each time you get an aha moment, you colour in a little bit more, and your life becomes more colourful and more richer. You're ending up, we're all still aiming for a fully coloured picture. No one's got it yet. Another reading from, I don't know how we're going for time, I should check, sorry. And I won't make 2 minutes, I'm sorry. There is, in church, we talk about being a rock, but there is no one person in church. We often we weigh heavily on one person like Ron to give us that direction. But it's not about that. Discipleship and making connection is a shared responsibility among all of us. And it doesn't matter how much expertise we've got on, I'm not familiar with 1,000 books on theology and philosophy and things. I'm not trained for that. But I can do mine a little bit. So what does it mean? What it means is it doesn't fall on just the minister's hands or the so-called lead people. It involves all of us. I'm going to try and speak a bit of stop off here. I should realise that. This pattern that occurs, and it's very similar. Jesus speaks first to the first potential disciple Philip. His response of accepting Jesus to follow him leads him to finding another potential disciple called Nathaniel. Nathaniel is a skeptic. Okay, the difficulty with Nathaniel is not that they found him somehow. The difficulty for Nathaniel is that this person is the son of Joseph from Nazareth. He doesn't probably accept him as Messiah, and he does that. And when they meet, Jesus, he lauds Nathaniel. He says, look, a truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. Because Nathaniel has accepted the invitation to come and see without letting his own initial prejudice get in the way of seeking Jesus. And this sets Nathaniel completely apart from other descendants. And so he disguises prejudices, which would be so easy. I'm not going to see the son of Joseph from Nazareth. And with Jesus, he transforms him from being a skeptic to a believer. Now, we know that Jesus is not the son of Joseph, he's actually the son of God. Nathanael's experience of Jesus is foreknowledge, but he knows what's happening, convinces Nathanael that Jesus is more than the son of a man from Nazareth. He sees Jesus for himself rather than taking him for his word for it. And Jesus bows him. It gives him that benefactor. He calls Jesus Rabbi. And that's the same thing as what happened with the early disciples, who start with his title, and then they come to realise that he's got greater significance than just a teacher. And it's hard to judge, to put things together. I'm not one, I can't, so that's why I'm just verting. I think the key things for us, if we're questioning, when are we going to get this mystical experience? When are we going to get this aha moment deeply? I suppose the words that keep repeating over and over are come and see. And come and see. And I'd like to finish with a passage from Answers in the Heart, which is what the Lord refers to often. And taking that risk, and the only wrong decision is one made for the wrong reasons. So you can make a wrong decision, but it's only wrong if it's made with the wrong. And so I'd like to finish with that, and then we'll just have maybe after that a reflection music after that. Okay, so we make decisions all the time, and every one, large or small, changes us. Since change is frightening, making a decision can be frightening too. We can make the process easier by asking ourselves the right questions. Do I really want to do this? Will it benefit my life? Is it realistic? Such questions help us to know our true feelings, which are the most important part of any decision. Wrong decisions are made by focusing on external things. If I do this, will it please my partner? I'm doing it because I want excitement and intrigue. I'm in it for the money, or the power, the status. Maybe I'm running away from something I don't want to face. But so what? We can take our time, talk our feelings through with our friends, with our group, someone in church, with Ron. Try to see the bigger picture. If we are still unsure of the right things to do, we can ask for our higher powers help. Decide, and then trust the outcome.
Faithful Lord, thank you that you give the gift of abundant eternal life. Your generosity overflows to us. Everything we have is a gift from you. As we bring these offerings, we give back to you from the abundant blessings you have given us. May these be acceptable in your sight. And we remember that we give not only these funds, but we invite you to use also our God-given talents to the benefit of our community. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. I invite you to join me in the Lord's Prayer, and you can say traditional Lord's Prayer, or if you have an alternative, you're most welcome to speak it. So let us pray together. Prayer given to us. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Please stand together. May the same mind that was in Christ be in you. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Live your life with passion, for it binds all things together in the perfect heart. And the Holy Spirit will be with you today and remain with you until we meet again. Amen. And final hymn 455 for all the saints.
Thank you.